Are you serious? Having a little fresh water, something you need when you're in the hot sun here in Israel. Guys, let me just say quickly, you'll need a Bible. You'll need to go to Zephaniah chapter 2. Rabbi Stephen Ben-Nunes brought up a very great point about Gaza being forsaken. It's actually in the Bible. We'll talk about that in a minute. But first, I have the Jerusalem Post here. They actually left it outside the hotel room. And it has a lot about Trump's visit and what all that meant, but what's going on actually in the entire region. But in the front lines section of the Jerusalem Post, there's a very, very interesting article written about Donald in the Holy Land, all right? And here's the perspective of what the nation of Israel and what the Jerusalem Post feels was said and not said by Donald Trump. Matter of fact, it's a look at what Trump did and did not say during his visit in Israel. President Donald Trump came, he saw, and he left. And with this whirlwind 28-hour trip, there was much the president said and did, and also there was much he did not say and do. Matter of fact, what follows is a look at both, starting with what was in Trump's maiden presidential visit. Sitting Tuesday afternoon in the Israel Museum along with other journalists and a couple of hundred handpicked guests, one could not avoid the comparisons between the keynote speech of Trump's visit and the one given by Trump's predecessor, President Barack Obama, at the Jerusalem International Convention Center to a few thousand handpicked guests 4 years ago. Obviously, the rhetorical styles are as different as night and day. Obama's speech was lengthy, nearly an hour, lofty and soaring, where Trump was short, about 20 minutes, and somewhat pedestrian. Matter of fact, they hit some of the same notes. Both talked about the Jewish people's connection to the land. Obama, in an obvious effort to compensate for short shifting that connection during his Cairo speech 4 years earlier, about Jewish resilience and perseverance and about Israel's unique contributions to the world. But what was missing from Donald Trump's speech was a lecture about Israel's failings. One knew when listening to Obama's speech, or even more so to a Middle East speech given by former Secretary of State John F. Kerry, that after the niceties about Israel were over and the Jewish people, he would come to the abominations that he felt Israel was committing. And indeed, while the first half of Obama's speech 4 years ago was full of sugar toward the Israeli public, the second half of his speech was full of vinegar. But contrast that. One did not sit listening to Trump wax enthusiastic about Israel and the Jewish people waiting for the but clause. No, they were not waiting for the other shoe to drop by Trump. What was missing with Trump's speech was that part where he talked about the need, as Obama and Kerry often put it, to be open and honest about friends before launching into an indictment of the settlements and the country's policies toward the Palestinians and its hesitance to take risks for peace. In other words, President Trump did not go to Israel to lecture Israel like Obama and John Kerry always did. Trump came to be a friend. President Trump came to truly be a friend of Israel and to acknowledge the great contributions they've made in the world. Instead, Trump praised the Jewish people for its perseverance, its resilience. He extolled the country's achievements. He spoke in general terms about a need for peace and then wrapped it all up. The vinegar never appeared. Matter of fact, Trump spent 28 hours in this area, spoke publicly 7 occasions, and never once mentioned settlements. Even more important, he never once talked about settlements and terrorism in the same breath, and as was often done by the officials of the Obama administration. One became accustomed to hearing Obama's administration officials give speeches on the Mideast in which they would sincerely and genuinely condemn Palestine terrorism, then also slam the settlements. The Palestinians need to stop terrorism incitements, Obama would say. This line would run, and the Israelis need to stop their settlement constructions. That was always what Obama said. Trump, he always linked the two. So in other words, if you keep building your settlements, Israel, they're going to keep terrorizing you. That was basically giving them an excuse for the terrorism. Trump did not do this. Trump made no such link. Not only did he not publicly mention the settlements, but when standing with Palestinian Authority President Mahmoud Abbas in Bethlehem, he said unequivocally that peace can never take root in an environment where violence is tolerated, funded, or rewarded. That Trump did not publicly mention the settlements was something deeply appreciated inside the Prime Minister's office of Benjamin Netanyahu, where it is seen as an effort to steer the conversation to the core issues in the Middle East, like Iran, combating terrorism, and regional peace. So, in this view, one adopted by Trump, endlessly talking about the settlements, about building a few hundred housing units in East Jerusalem, or even beyond the security barrier, serves only as a distraction. So, no speeches, no specifics. Much was made, and not unjustifiably, about the fact that not only did Trump not mention settlements, he also did not mention a Palestine state. He never said the word two-state solution or even Palestine self-determination. He didn't mention any of this during his 6 public comments in Israel, nor his final speech in Bethlehem when he was with Abbas in Bethlehem, which does not mean that this was not discussed privately. It was, but publicly he stayed away from prescribing what a future peace deal should look like. He did talk about a comprehensive peace, but gave no indication beyond speaking in extremely general terms about a regional dimension, about how he envisions this being carried out. At one time, he said all sides need to make compromises. And it appears he sees 3 sides to the equation. The Arab world, which he met in Saudi Arabia before coming to Israel, and the Palestinians and the Israelis. I find this very fascinating that he doesn't mention the Vatican, the guy writing the article. That Trump is shaping up this this peace process by including the 54 Arabic nations, the Arabic world, getting them to all get on the same page that terrorism is detrimental to peace, that it can no longer be tolerated. By identifying the Iranians as the main culprit, the main problem, and that the Iranians are funding the Hamas in Gaza, the Hezbollah in southern Lebanon, the Houthis in Yemen who attack Saudi Arabia, and other radical groups, that it is Iran who is, the culprit. And the Palestinians are just people who would like to have peace, and that the Jews are people that would like to have peace. And the Vatican does not get to participate in the peace process. I think that's why he went to Rome, just to look the Pope in the eye and say, appreciate what you're doing over here. Now sit back quietly and wait. Don't worry, you'll get to control your holy sites as you have been. But no, Jerusalem will not be an international city. It will be the capital of Israel. And maybe a part of it will be a slice of it, may be a part of a capital for the Palestinians. We'll see. We'll let them work it out. But you just sit back and relax. We'll let you know. And that's exactly how it was portrayed in the world. And I think when you're reading the front lines, Donald in the Holy Land, I think that's exactly the way President Trump was shaping up. Now, believe me, his son-in-law, Jared Kushner, is in the back rooms, and the real details are being pounded out between all sides. But we'll let them work it out. The fact that Trump has brought the Arabic nations into the process makes it a strong possibility we may be witnessing the covenant with many. You can find that in the Bible, in the book of Daniel, chapter 9, verse 27, which means you're getting ever so close in these last days. Because part of this agreement could be, well, if Israel has to give up some of the land, even a slice of Jerusalem, for a promised peace, they're going to want one more thing: the right to build the third temple. And if the 54 Arabic nations in the world have already come to this realization, they may be willing to grant that, as long as the Dome of the Rock and the Al-Aqsa Mosque get to stay there as well. If this is what takes place, along with a two-state solution that's not called a two-state solution, but just two separate nations, it will actually fulfill biblical prophecy in a lot of areas. One will be Genesis chapter 25, I believe it is, verse 23. I'm just going to go look real fast and read it, and then I will read for you what I said. Oh, it's Genesis 25, verse 23. Rebekah was pregnant. She was having trouble with the pregnancy, and here's what the Lord said to her when she asked the Lord, after being barren all those years, now that she was pregnant, why was she having such a hard time? And the Lord said unto her, 2 nations are in thy womb, and 2 manner of people shall be separated from thy bowels. And the one people shall be stronger than the other people, and the elder shall serve the younger. And of course, they were twins in her womb, Jacob and Esau, or the Jews and the other Arabic nations. Now, let's go to Zephaniah about Gaza. How does Gaza fit into this whole thing? Well, it may be, Zephaniah may have already told us what it is. And this is what Rabbi Stephen Ben-Nun has brought up in one of his YouTube videos. Here's what it says: gather yourselves together, yea, gather together, O nation, not desired. Before the decree, bring forth before the day pass, as the chaff before the fierce anger of the Lord came upon you, before the day of the Lord's anger come upon you. Seek ye the Lord, all ye meek of the earth, which have wrought his judgment. Seek righteousness, seek meekness. It may be ye shall be hid in the day of the Lord's anger. For Gaza shall be forsaken, and Ashkelon a desolation. They shall drive out Ashdod at the noonday, and Ekron shall be rooted up. Now there's 4 different locations. Gaza, which we know is the Gaza Strip. Ashkelon, Ashdod, and Ekron, all in the nation of Israel, not very close to that area. It looks as if that whole area may be going to go through some major changes in the status quo. Gaza being completely forsaken. We'll see. We'll see. We know the scripture's correct, and what it says has never happened yet. So let's wait and see how it plays out in these last days. It may be a part of the very process we're watching. So anyway, God bless all of you. This is a pretty powerful update, and I hope you enjoyed it. We always take the current world events and how they relate to biblical prophecy, and certainly we're watching the end times develop right before our very eyes. If you're not saved, you need to realize the end is here. We're getting very close. We don't know the day nor the hour the Lord is coming, but we can see the day approaching. Will you be saved? Are you born again? Or will you be left behind? God bless.